But welcome to On with Sean. Again, another episode. We've got Joel Johnson with Hatton Landscape here. I was going to say HPM, right? The old school. I was like, no, Hatton Landscape. I was yeah. I'm proud of myself. I actually got it right. But hey, Joel, tell us about, I super appreciate you coming out. We've got Nicholas Feliciano, Nicholas Antopoulos Feliciano.
A new one. I'm Greek today.
With NWI Media. But Joel, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the business.
Yeah, so we started up 9 years ago now. It's crazy. It's been that long, man. Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, just to bring up the HPM, we literally started the business as Hatton Property Management, and literally at the time I thought that meant like landscape maintenance.
Yeah.
But as we started developing, putting our name online, we used to get calls from people like asking for rental properties and stuff like that, what a property management company was. Mm-hmm. So I started very green, had really no clue what we were doing. Still don't quite have that good of a clue, but I have a lot
more vulnerability there.
A lot more now. But yeah, so I mean, we just really started off super green and have really developed more into the outdoor living spaces, patios, artificial turf, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's been a journey, man, and really spent probably 5 to 6 years or more spinning my wheels, not going anywhere. I think a lot of it had to do with just not reaching out to people and not learning from resources around myself, being kind of stubborn.
For sure.
In a way. But yeah, man, it's been a fun journey. So cool to learn along the way and just see kind of how, we started literally cutting grass and spreading mulch. And then just really seeing, because I was not passionate about that, to say the least. That was not something I enjoyed at all, but just cool to see how God brings these opportunities into our life. And then just by saying yes, it's like you get drawn into these new avenues to where now the outdoor design and build, like it's the coolest thing in the world for me. I feel like it fits my wiring so well. So it's just been cool to kind of see that growth over time, and learning the hard way along the way. But yeah, man, it's been great. So been enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. And I love just seeing the growth with it as well, because it's like you own a business and it's almost like, because I mean, I feel the same way with it, but I think even more like it's very rare to see people outwork me, and I know you can outwork anyone. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, because it's just like, I know there's a lot of people listening where it's just like working harder is better. And in your experience, like, that that's not always the case, and speak a little bit to that as far as like how that has disallowed you to truly focus on the business the correct way. Because you're like, I've got to do everything. Like, I'm going to be stubborn. I'm not going to look around to the people and amazing assets around us, not even just in church, but the Lord has blessed you with an awesome spirit with people that are around you. So speaking a little bit of that, of what that looks like as far as you kind of working your butt off too much. And that was kind of to the detriment of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think again, a lot of my own stubbornness, and it was like you said, it was like I for so many years took such pride in the fact that like I could look around and be like, I'll work harder than any of you guys, and there is value in that. I think that's super important to have that. But just to speak to that, I mean, like looking back, it's like comical to me the things that we used to do. Like we would dig patios by hand, like literally pickaxes, throwing it in a wheelbarrow, wheeling it into the truck, picking the wheelbarrows up, dumping them in the bed, and we didn't have dump trucks, and then we would shovel all the dirt out. So it was just like I spent so many years focused on like being a hard worker, but never spent time to just like think like, hey, we should get a dumpster on site and we could put it in the dumpster. And we would never have to shovel it out, but I would shovel 10 truckloads full of dirt in a day. So it's just, kind of realizing that it's like, hey, it's good to work hard, but I think it's even better to learn from like people around you, and to, challenge yourself to grow and to find better ways to do things instead of just like, doubling down on the fact that you're willing to work hard. So I mean, it was a long learning curve of kind of adding this and then adding that. But I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is it's just there's so much value, especially online, whether it's social media or just different people. And people are putting content out all over the place that if you take the time to really learn and try and grow and expand the way you do things, you can go a lot faster, a lot sooner. So that I think was something for me, like looking back again, I take pride in those because it's like to see where we've come from that. But it was like, man, if you can take the time to build relationships and network with people, it's like you can go a lot faster, a lot quicker. So yeah, I mean, again, just looking back, when I think of that, I think of this specific patio where we were there for probably 2 weeks with pickaxes in the middle of summer, just chopping and chopping. But we did it, and you know what? That project got us our next one, and it was like we really were able to grow from that. But yeah, I mean, reach out to people and learn, because there's so much valuable information out there that can make your life a lot easier. You know. So yeah, I think that was huge for me. Is again just that, in a way, it was like my ability to work hard in a lot of ways was a detriment to me because I was unwilling to kind of grow and learn. So yeah, that was huge for me. So
do you guys still mow?
So this is the official announcement. As of this year, we're not doing residential.
This was not teed up, actually.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if that was supposed to.
Wow.
I haven't told my customers yet. So
this discernment is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it won't air for a little bit anyway. So.
But so as of this year, we're still doing like our maintenance contracts for commercial places. But we're really shifting our focus just to the outdoor design and build. Again, that's just really what I'm passionate about. And
I don't know if there's anybody that's necessarily passionate about mowing grass. There's probably 8 individuals like that in the world.
I mean, some people like it, but it's like their own lawn.
Yeah,
and
see,
it's
like there's a difference there.
Yeah. Beyond that, it's just like...
And that was my question. Like, eventually you understood, like, moving into hardscape, you're probably going to be able to make more money than a mowing route.
Yeah.
But also you probably are still leaning on those mowing route connections, because a lot of those need hardscapes now.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that's the greatest thing about the landscape industry, is that it's like, for the lawn care business, it's such a low barrier to entry. Like, all you need is a push mower, and you can get started, and you're a business owner, you know, like you can be self-employed. But yeah, kind of, again, just learning to grow from that. And find kind of your niche, if you will. See what has God put in you specifically that makes you unique, and that you're passionate about. But yeah, so the lawn care was great for us. I mean, I wouldn't be doing landscaping if it wasn't for cutting grass. So I'm so grateful to it. But I'm also grateful to be able to kind of move past that season, and just, you know, move into some new opportunities that are available. So yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, definitely, just the maintenance side is nice because it's consistent money. When you just do design and build, you start at zero every year, which can be a little nerve-wracking, for sure. But yeah, I think, again, this has been something that's been on my heart for years now, to really make that jump into what I'm passionate about. So this will be our first year where we're no longer cutting residential yards. Again, just because there's a million people that can do that for you. So it's really trying to find, like, hey, what makes us unique, and what can we do that maybe other people in the area can't, has been huge for us. So
for sure. So I want to dive into that a little bit more, is because I'm trying in my head right now. I'm like, man, like, I know that I maybe take too long to make that decision to switch to something that I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like, even for me, from residential to commercial, we actually had a conversation like 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm just like, man, I don't really want to be in residential, but I'm just kind of doing it. And I remember him saying, it's just like, I don't know why you're not in commercial. And I just remember that. And I was like,
I don't remember that, but I'm glad we had that conversation.
I was just kind of annoyed with him. I was just like, does he not think I can? I was like, hold on, that's not the case. Like, I know he's
no.
not
You did what, $6 million in 6 months in residential? You had the sauce.
And it was literally like a small little period. I was just like, okay, and then I burnt out because I'm just like, I'm not in this. I don't want to do anything. So I know that I can't. It took me 2 years to make that decision, and a buttload of just hardship and trials along the way.
Oh, and life almost took you to a whole different place. Like,
literally, I thought I was going to Texas. I thought blah, 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 this other stuff. That came out. I was like, I don't want people to know that. I'm like, this is not really for real yet. And it's just like, dude, like, I can't get away with anything. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? But I know that I drag my feet in certain areas, and I'm not saying that you're doing that, but I want to go into that for the people that are looking to take the next step, whether it be from, you know, something financially or in their business from point A to point B. What does that look like? So from the mowing lawns, for you to like, hey, I know this was a foundation to why we built, but from going from here to hardscapes and land, like the actual, like stone and all that work there, how long did that process take, and was it an easy one? Give us a little more insight into that.
Yeah, so I've dragged my feet on this so many times, and even like pump faked it where I'm like, I'm not doing it next year. And then we ended up doing it. So it was very hard for me because.
Is it because you're too nice? Like, do you have a hard time telling people no?
I do.
Okay. I'm the same way. I think
it is so hard for me. I mean, even with employees, it's like I found there's been so many times where I have had trouble addressing things or like things that were serious and needed to be brought up. But again, it's hard because you love your guys. I mean, you're out there working with them every day. So to kind of make those calls and maybe call people out where we need to be more excellent is uncomfortable, man. And it's not fun. So I think, that's huge for me is I am such a people pleaser, and I really do like I said, I love my crew, man. They're like brothers to me, but it's like it is hard because there's that line where you've got to be able to make those decisions. But yeah, for me, again, this transition I have dragged my feet on for years and years and years. But I think what it was just that security, because it was like, when you cut grass, it might not be a lot, but you know what's coming every month, and you know it's going to be there, and it's great. But I think the thing that really caused me to change was, it was like I was just realizing that all of my headaches, all of my struggle was from these yards that were cutting for $40, and it was like
a certain subdivision.
Exactly.
Or the 20-minute phone call on how you guys did something wrong, and it's $40, and you know what you need to be at per hour.
We got to send the crew back, and we got to do all these things, and it was hard because, I mean, again, we built the business on cutting grass, and I was cutting the grass, and we did a great job. But I think what I found is that as that grew and we started trying to branch into other things, that our quality wasn't there, just wasn't. I mean, we were not doing good work. When I was driving around looking at our yards, I wasn't happy with it, and that was hard to have the part of your business that makes the least amount of money be your biggest headache. It was like when I went out of town.
I think that's everybody though. Like, that's a great point. Like, I think there are a lot of business owners that could relate, that if you look at the actual portions of how much time you're spending, what you're making on it, and how much emotional energy you're spending on it, that little flip is
that's like the reverse Pareto's principle, where it's like 80% of your headache is from, or 20%
of your money.
Money and stuff. It's just like, whoa, that's not good.
And I think the other thing I found too is it was like there's just so many difficulties with lawn care. If you have equipment breakdown and you turn it into any repair shop in the area, you're not going to get it back for 3 weeks. So it's like, how are you supposed to manage these yards? How are you supposed to do all this stuff with that setup? So I just was realizing, I would try and leave for a week with my family, and it was like I'd get 10 calls for angry yard customers, but our patios and all of that stuff, people loved them, and there was nothing but positive reviews. So it was just, again, kind of seeing that it was like, man, this is draining me, and it's taking,
and not even you, like your employees, like the amount of satisfaction they probably get from. And I think that's something that's so cool about, like, I think landscape companies have really come into the 20th or 21st century with content now, because like it's so aesthetically pleasing with blocks and whatnot. Like the content that they're able to pull it out, it's so aesthetically pleasing. So then with your team and your guys, like being able to hear nothing but compliments versus a mowing route that they're making X amount per hour, and they have 3 people mad that they have to see next week because they put lines in their yard, and she might come out and say something.
One leaf that's on the porch. It's just like,
so they have to be more fulfilled, and the energy of the team has to be even more, and that culture is probably even growing more now.
And I think the other thing I found too is it's like, man, you have kind of essentially 2 sides of the business, where it's like we have a grass cutting crew, and then we have this patio crew, and it's like all my guys that are on the grass cutting crew, they just want to come build patios with us. They're like, I don't, when can I go do that with you? So I just saw that it was like, man, all the eyes were on that, and all my headaches were over here. So it was just, it was kind of, again, it's nerve-wracking going into a season really not knowing what you're going to do yet. That's not always fun to sit at home for 3 months throughout the winter, panicking if you're not careful. But it was just, I guess, seeing that realization that it was like, man, this is, all my headaches are over here, and everyone wants to be doing this. It was like, we got to make the jump. It was hard and took me way longer than it probably should have. But I'm super excited. I feel so much more alive showing up on those sort of sites, and just even the interactions with the customer. It's like, I feel like every time they come out, they're like, I can't believe this is my backyard. And it's like, that's so fulfilling, versus, hey, you cut my grass and it didn't need it, or why did you cut when it was wet? It's like, well, ma'am, it's rained 4 days in a row. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Exactly.
So
It's too real.
Yeah,
too real.
I'm getting a twitch over here thinking about it.
Love it.
But yeah, so I think, just been grateful to be able to have the opportunity to do that to begin with. But I think a lot of times you have this fake sense of security in knowing that something's there, even if it is hurting you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just all of that, the headaches and everything that went into that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the majority of the big landscape companies locally are still cutting grass, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I'm really wanting to find our niche and like what makes us unique. Because I really have no desire to have a business with 20 trucks that go out every day.
Yeah.
That's not my passion. I want to be a boutique that like does work that really no one else can do.
Yeah.
So that's where, again, I think that's just kind of part of developing. And then one other thing I found is that it was like, man, I'm taking all this money that we're making building patios and doing this and using it to buy the new weed whacker and buy the new thing.
It's
and
like
I was realizing, like this part of the
That's
business
frustrating.
can't stand on its own. Like it has to be supplemented. And there is some value, especially when you're starting out, to be able to have that truck that's going into your high-end subdivisions that people see your name to get your number.
Yeah.
So I think for a season, it's important to do that. Taking that leap has been so great for me. I'm like, can't wait to get started this year, just to not have to deal with that. Because it's hard when you have your name on the shirts and your name on the truck, and you're driving around and like, man, this doesn't look good, So I think that was a heartache for me, that it's like, man, I've got to draw the line here, because it's gonna affect the other parts of our business, you know.
Well, that's what's hard, right? Like, we live in such a social friendly day that if like you could be on the news for the wrong reason so instantly, like having a mowing crew or something out there.
Damage is already done.
Yeah, like who wants to juggle that headache? No thanks.
Yeah.
So then will you eventually move into like pools?
Dude, that's so funny that you bring it up. That's really we're working on being able to launch that for 2023, because my goal is really to be just full outdoor design and build. So pergolas, everything, outdoor kitchen. I mean, we're already doing the outdoor kitchens, pergolas, all that stuff, but really to be able to add in the pools. Because I want
you to do like the crazy stuff, like the hot tub that's set in the pool and there's like a fireplace in the middle.
Yeah,
like
the sunken fire pit in the middle
crazy
of the
stuff.
pool, all of that. So yeah, I mean, those are the things that get me excited. Like I'm ready to go buy some masonry block and just start doing it. It's like that's the stuff that I'm so passionate about. So I think it's important that when you feel that in your heart and you feel those things, like you were saying with the commercial real estate, it's like, pursue those, because that's the Lord pressing on you and kind of leading you and guiding you.
That gut instinct has a little bit more than just your body behind it. Like, it's something you need to listen to.
Yeah, and I think that we get so used to numbing that or pushing that away and isolating from it, and that's where we're like, why am I unhappy? It's just like, dude, because that's where the Lord, we can call it conviction, we can call it whatever, but those are nudges of the Holy Spirit. I've said this on other podcasts, that's the cringe factor. It should keep us out of certain business deals or going a certain way, but it should also propel us towards something that the Lord is trying to push us towards. And I think we just kind of get used to like, oh, well, I'm supposed to do this because I got to make money. I think that's great. But again, Os Guinness said in the book, his book, The Call, he's like, one of the greatest like sins a young man can do is not lean into where the Lord has called him to do. Like, that's a pretty intense statement to say, like, you're sinning for not working in your calling with the Lord. And it's just like, oh man, so maybe he was right with those passion areas that he put in my life. Maybe there was supposed to be an alignment with his word that I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And that's where it goes into like the whole work as worship and service and the Avodah from Biedenbos, but which is kind of what I want to lead into the next topic, or this kind of goes into as well, is like sitting in those passion areas. When did you make that shift from like, hey, this is just a Christian business, to be like, hey, like, which is like principles, blah blah blah, or like from Christian to like, no, this is kingdom and this is the Lord's. And the second question to that, like, not just the shift there, but how was that process for you? Because for me, it was tough. So, and still is tough because it's a daily thing. Yeah, absolutely. So I think even just, I always joke with my wife, it's like, man, being a landscaper in the winter will get you closer to God than you could ever imagine, because it's so real, man. Is that it's like, just you come into these seasons where maybe things are tight or, whatever it is, that it's like, I can carry this if I want.
and I'm going to be miserable. Like, you know, I have 2 months that I get to be at home if it's not snowing with my family, enjoying time, and it can be the greatest 2 months of my life, or I can sit around and be anxious and overwhelmed.
That's good.
So it really has been, I mean, it's a daily battle, to be completely blunt about it, but it's like just learning that it's like, hey, like, if this is the Lord's business, you know, like we say it is, it's like, this isn't my problem. You know what I mean? Like these, whether it's financial headaches or whatever it is, but it's like, he's either in control or he's not. You know what I mean? Like,
so good.
I love Grandma Jay, you know, her sharing that is just with the things going on with health stuff or whatever, where she just chooses not to walk in fear, that she's like, listen, God's either in control or he's not. And it's like for you to sit there and carry that worry, carry that strife. I mean, it's like a smack in the face to the Lord, that it's like, you don't trust me, you know? So I think, that it's a conscious decision for myself to really continue just to like, God, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, you know how I feel, but it's like, God, I choose to give this to you. And it's just been so amazing. I mean, I could name situation after situation where we're like getting towards the end of our workload and I'm like, we really don't have anything to do next week. And then out of nowhere, I'll get a call for some crazy project. Like this literally happened this winter. It was like the end of November where we were booked for like 3 months, but we started getting to the end of our workload. And I'm like, man, it's not going to be snowing for a while. And we got a call out of nowhere just for this tennis court project, and it was like a massive, it wasn't just like, hey, we get to go spread some mulch to keep us busy. It was like one of the coolest projects we've ever had the opportunity to do, but it really was one of those things that came in kind of at the last moment, and it was just, again, I feel like the Lord just like smiling at me like, hey, will you chill? Like this is either my business or it's not. You can carry this if you want.
I've got you, but don't need to worry about it. Like I can just throw it out.
You know, so even going into this season, it's like, as we were approaching it, you know, we probably had a dozen projects that were quoted out, but nobody confirmed. So I'm sitting there like, well, we have a lot of potential, but nothing on the books. And just seeing how, as we're coming in to start up the season, all these things are just starting to fall in place. And it's just such a good reminder. You know, I'm so grateful for my dad and just the example that he set growing up, because it's like, I've seen that time and time and again with him, where it was like, whether it was a financial situation or we needed new floors or a pipe broke or whatever it was, but when that happens, he goes and tithes more, you know what I mean? But he doubles down, and just to see how God, not only does he provide your needs, but he like blesses you above and beyond, like extravagantly.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's like, if you can either choose to have peace through these moments or carry it, but it's like, it's not yours to carry. I
love that, because a lot of the things, like, you know, I don't really want to call it Chick-fil-A, but it's just they annoyed me when I heard that. They're like, hey, we're not a Christian company, we just operate on biblical principles. I hate that. Like, it annoys me so much, because it's just like, stop. You're using the Lord as like almost like a prostitute. Like, that's really what you're doing. You're just like, here, God, like, I just want to take the good stuff of you, but I don't want any challenging stuff. I don't want to deal with my shame. I just want to I want to just keep this in here. And I realized a lot of my life, what I have done is I have aligned with truth, but that does not mean I'm in the will of the Lord. And I think that this is a lot of Christians, what we do is, and I don't even like saying Christian anymore, because I feel like it's got such a bad definition now. I just say I'm a servant of the King. And I think what we've done with Christianity is we've compartmentalized stuff, and we're just like, I'm just going to operate pretty much like the world, but I'm gonna have a different Sunday routine. But like, I may tithe, but I'm gonna tithe on my net, not my gross, right? I'm gonna tithe on this, blah blah blah. And really, what it comes into, and the Lord's just like, you're using my truth, kind of how I would say not necessarily Jewish people use it as well, but it's like it's a true and tried process. There's gonna be successful people, but that does not mean that they're Christian or they're genuinely operating out of the Lord. And I think that's where we misalign with we align with truth, but we don't actually operate in being a son or a daughter of the Most High. And I know it's a little bit more theological than I'd like to take it, but more than anything, it's just like we compartmentalize, and we're just like, oh, we're Christian. But how do you think I've been screwed over by how many Christian business owners? Like,
oh man,
and I mean, how many times? And this leads into like the whole, all right, undercutting, because it's like, well, you're Christian, so that means I'm a brother, so that means you have to give me a discount. It's hell on earth, no. Like, that does not. I don't discount. Like, this is the set price, and that. I'm not doing any less work, so don't undervalue me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I expect a discount. It's like, no, like if you have, and I'm just going to say this for everyone listening, is if you have anyone in your life that owns a business, the best way that you can support them is buying their product full price and giving them a little extra.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
That's
like,
true.
bless them even beyond it, because is it your money or is it not? Like, it's the Lord's.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
seriously. And that's the problem, is we think that it's ours. Yes, he's our provider, but the reality is he's also the provider for their business, and he uses you to purchase stuff out of their company or to whatever services rendered and stuff like that as well. And
absolutely.
All the time. People, all the time used to call me for the discount. And I'm like,
yeah.
we've never even worked together.
just because we may have gone to the same church together, or
like
two friends
that,
of friends.
But that can't be the excuse. Like, if you're going to use religion as an excuse, like, you're my friend. Like,
Absolutely.
you don't want to support me to begin with. It's because we're Christians that you think I'm supposed to give you a deal because I believe in something a little more spiritual than you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little bit more fulfilled in my soul, but my finances don't matter.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about people that could work at Apple and I get a discount because they work for a larger company. No, screw Apple.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
That's not local business. Like, that's just what it is. And half the time, let's look at it. I mean, don't screw Apple, obviously. But the point
Please
is,
don't shut down our podcast.
The point is,
You're pulled.
That is the backbone of our economy. But also, like, what is $20 going to do to you when it could literally help provide for their family? Like, you don't know what they're going through. But it's just so far besides the point to be like, I need a deal, I need a deal, I need a deal. Like, stop looking for that and support
and
people.
I think it takes the kingdom and like negatively flips it on its head to where it's like, God's gonna bless me by using this Christian business owner to give me a discount. It's like, no, why can't you be the conduit to bring blessing to them and watch God expand you as a result of that, instead of like, hey, you should give me a deal because you're Christian. It's like, hey, no, like you said, I want to bless you and like tip your whole crew above and beyond because the Lord's my provider and he's gonna cover that. But it's like, why don't you be the one to give that blessing as opposed to like trying to like scrounge it up for yourself, if you will.
That's the thing. Like, if it was a blessing, do you really have to take it?
Yeah.
Like, it's a give and a take mentality.
Seriously.
Like, I don't know if that exists then.
So there's being a good steward and there's being a cheapskate. And I feel like we easily blur those lines significantly.
Yes. Agreed.
And so, no, I appreciate you sharing with that, because like, I know that I want this idea of kingdom to be so ingrained in people's lives, because I'm telling you, again, I'm not dumb, but I'm not smart enough to think this stuff, And it's like, when we're talking about kingdom, or even the Beat and Bows, when we've talked about them, or they came in, they're like, they have like a $1 billion+ company, and it's all employee owned. It's literally probably one of the best work environments on the planet. And
to the point that like Facebook sent their team there to train, I believe.
It was something crazy, and then there's so many different like Facebook and Google, I think, sent their team there to be trained by it, like some of their executive staff, just on their culture and how to implement that in their reality. That's insane. A private Christian company that literally they have it legally structured as God is their CEO, and which blows my mind.
Yeah, that's so wild.
And Google and Facebook are like, clearly they're onto something here. I mean, like, for each job, there's like 100+ applicants for every single position, like down to like washing dishes in their kitchen at their Willows Event Center, which is like, it just blows me away. But it's just,
and
like,
I would go do that. Like,
I seriously would be like, all right, I'll take it.
Sold.
Like, that's fine. And I think this is what we miss, is because that you would trade everything for, even you would decrease the amount that you get paid to feel like not even just you matter, but you feel known. And that's what they do. They're one-on-ones, they're direct reports, they pursue people. And it's like, that's why I want this podcast. Like, this is good for me. I love it, because like, now we get to talk into people's lives and be like, this is like ministry 101 for me. Like, I'll just tell cheat sheet. Like, that's what it is. I get to talk to people and like, they get to minister to me while we're doing this. And it's like, you going through this, that's how we get to know each other better and move forward with it. And that's kingdom 100%. And people are like, oh, this is selfish, blah, blah. No, take it as free, Mark. Take whatever you can. I'm doing this is from me to you and you to me, because if we can't do this and have these dialogues, you and I both won't grow. And if we don't try and provoke this in our daily lives, then, I mean, really, what's the point? All right, you're going to make a little bit of money? Tell me how that's going to go. Like, seriously, beyond a certain point anyway, statistically, like, if you make like over 70-80 grand, like, they're going to tell you like your life sucks anyway.
It's all fun. The best way I heard that explained is like, once you don't have to look at how much your food costs, you're good. After that, it's all fluff.
Seriously, it is, because it's like, what, you just need a little bit better car, a little bit better house, but you don't really need it. it's just to maybe fulfill some type of thing that you need to prove to somebody. And where does that lead you? That
if we're jumping into that massive identity issues,
that's a different identity issue. But
then you may already lost. Like, then what's the point?
Yeah. But so moving forward with your business, and I think this is the first time we've done this, but man, is there anything that you need help with right now?
Yes. So I think for me, I just did like a culture index survey the other day with my brother, and it was literally yesterday, and it was like I came home and my wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" And it was like I felt like I just like was told who I am, and it was such a unique experience to go through because I felt like before we talked, I was really somewhat clueless. Like I couldn't tell you what my strengths were. I couldn't tell you what like my value is, if you will. It was like after going through that, it was like I feel like everything became so obvious to me, and it was kind of uncomfortable because like going through that, I realized that it's like we talked about earlier, like I love working hard. Like I value I find a lot of my value in that, which isn't good, and I'm learning to grow through that. But it was just like kind of seeing some of these things in my head, like, hey, I'm really intense, and I can be somewhat intimidating, especially to people that are working around me. And I've really struggled over the years with developing like a good team around me. I have great guys. I love my crew, but like having people that can build these projects so I can keep growing the business has been a struggle for years and years. But I think, again, going through that yesterday really kind of revealed to me a lot of these things in my heart that I've really got to address to be able to build that team, because I'm resistant to other people's ideas. Like when you tell me, hey, maybe we should do it this way, my immediate response is to tell you why we're not going to do that.
The same way.
You know, and it's like, you know, there is value in being like independent and a self-starter and all those things. Those are great qualities. But if you don't learn to kind of check yourself a little bit, you're going to run off a lot of good people. So I think that's something I've seen in myself is it's like, man, I've had some really gifted, talented people that have come in and worked for seasons, and it's been great. It's not like I ran them out the door or anything like that, but they moved on to new opportunities. But I've seen a lot of that as a result of my leadership on the site. Like when they're doing something and it's a little slow, I just step in and do it really quick. Or, you know, these caps need to be cut today, so I just start cutting the caps. And it's like I've really put a lid in a lot of ways on my crew
to where enabling them to grow.
Like
it's
exactly.
Hard, just depending on Joel.
It's that constantly stepping in and doing it because I can obviously do it quicker than everyone. But it's like that hard working mentality has really held me in this same spot for too long. So just realizing that, you know, how important it is for me to create a culture where not only people are allowed to learn and grow, but they feel valued and they feel like they're important to the team. And just, you know, I remember a situation where one of my crew members asked me like, hey, what do we need to get done today? And in my mind, I heard, what time can I get off today? And I got upset, and I kind of like was like, we're just here to work, man. And it frustrated me. But like taking that survey yesterday, I realized like, hey, that guy wanted to know, how do we win today? Like, what's our goal? Because everybody, when you show up to work, you want to know that you killed it. And if you don't know that you killed it, you feel unsatisfied for the hard work you just put in. So it's like just seeing those little things of how important it is to like set goals for your crew and all of those things so that they can feel a sense of satisfaction. I feel it, but they don't feel it because they go into this day blind. Like, I don't know when we're getting off. I don't know, you know, and so just realizing just a lot of my own, it's hard, you know, again, it's uncomfortable to realize that like, hey, I have held myself in this season for too long as a result of my leadership. So just learning to grow and like be more open to other people's ideas, be more open to like letting them bloom into new positions. Like, quit being the guy who hops in the machine, you know, like let your crew get in the machine and mess it up a few times. So yeah, I think just seeing that in my own self, it's like we're in a season now where I've got to have someone that can start to build these projects without me there. But the only way that that's going to happen, like you were saying, is to get out of the way and let these people learn and mess up a cut and do it again, and those sort of things. So yeah, I think I'm excited for this new season to really be able to take my hands off to a whole nother level and let people grow.
But the 2 points on that I think that are so cool is like you have a landscape company that's focused on culture. Like, I think that you have bigger businesses that are doing 20, 30, 40 million that aren't even focused on it yet. And so for you to understand the value of culture in your own business and helping your guys grow and feel appreciated and excel and fulfilled, I think that's amazing. And secondly, the fact that you take an EQ survey in a sense with a culture index, and the fact that most people take those tests and they're like, man, like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is me. And no, like, you're looking at it like, okay, like, this is me, how I'm showing up right now. I got to grow.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely huge, man. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
What pushed you to do that?
So like my brother has been like so influential in my life. Don't get me start crying. But you know, it's like he has helped me so much to grow, because he knows me, man. You know, it's like he sees that, I'm stubborn, man. And again, for so many years, I found my value in the fact that I work 80 hours, or I was in the office last night till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I was up at 6. I was this, I was that, you know, you know, and it's like that was what I felt my value was. But it was just like seeing that so much of that was a result of like feeling like an imposter, to where it was like, I didn't know what I'm good at. And it's like, so going through that and just seeing that it's like, man, I'm a great starter. I'm good at, like, I'm ready, fire, aim, you know, like I come in and I'm hot off the press, but like we get stuff done. And so there's value in that. But it was so inspiring for the change that it brought in my life that we're going to send our whole crew through it and have everyone take that. So they're able to see like, hey, what are you good at? Like, what is God, created you to do? And
so it's like a spiritual gifts test then?
I'll have to get some more info on it. It was really like, did not have like a religious tone to it. It was very just you click your, like, what do you think your strengths are? And what are your weaknesses, that sort of thing. But again, it just revealed to me, like, I'm not a systems person. Like, I can't tell you how many times we show up at a project and I'm like, oh crap, how did I forget that? And we run to the store and we buy it. So just seeing that, it's like, I think the thing that was so cool to hear is that it's like, your job as a leader is not to round out your weak points. Like, you need to, like, if you're a jerk, you need to not be a jerk, obviously, but it's like, your job is not to round out all the areas that you're not good at. Your job is to build a team around you that fills those weak points. So it's like, I'm not good at like drawing out a detailed checklist or those sort of things. It numbs me and it drains me. Absolutely. So it's like, my job is to find that guy. Someone who does, who enjoys that, and that's how he thinks, and then let them give feedback and those sort of things. So yeah, it was like, again, it was a whirlwind of an experience to go through, and really kind of eye-opening. But yeah, it excites you too when you realize that it's like, hey, like, God created you this way, and like, he's not like, oh crap, I should have given him a little more compassion, or I should have given him a little more detail. It's like, no, he designed you this way. Now it's your goal and your job to fill those voids and to help, you know, give people other opportunity to fill those gaps, you know. So yeah, that's really where my focus is this year, is to, again, as often as I can, get out of the way and really let people grow, because nothing makes you feel more valuable than knowing that, like, you're irreplaceable to this group. And I don't think I've done a good job of that in the past. Yeah, for sure. That's good. So yeah.
So I mean, in real estate, I needed somebody that was a processor, like, because I get inundated with details, and I'm just like, I can't be me, right? So I think for you, man, and this, again, so correct me if I'm wrong, I think it would be great for you is figure out the money that you're leaving on the table because of the value that you haven't given somebody. Like, you haven't really identified the value of how much money you'd leave on the table if you don't have a systems person. Like really use that as a metric and see, like, man, like, what money am I losing, or is this project not efficient because I don't have somebody in my life that this is a detailed person. So figure out that value and try to figure out like a salary, what that would look like to have someone partner with you, because otherwise, man, like, again, do you want to be doing that? No, like, you don't want to be. But if you don't put a value to it and in dollar amount, like sign, then I don't think that you're going to be able to see how much of a necessity that it is. So I encourage you to do that. I mean, you don't really have to, but I'm just definitely. Because that's me. Because like, I literally was like, how many? If I paid someone a couple $100 every single deal, what did that look like? It's like, okay, like I could do that. Like, I pulled enough if I, just per deal versus percentage of it, or even if they want to have a percentage of it, that's fine. It's like, it's still got to make sense. But I'm like, now all these red tasks that I'm doing that genuinely exhaust the living piss out of me.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, now that I do it, I can toss it. I know the title's going to get ordered. And shout out to Jess Saxma back in the day at a different brokerage. But I love her to death. She knows today, like, the only reason my business got to the way that it was, and then me eventually imploding, the only reason I got to the way it was is because Jess helped me out significantly. And I realized that I needed that. So, but I think it'd be great for you, man. It's like, how, like, find anyone. So
that's so good. I was listening. I think it was Craig Groeschel's podcast the other week, but he was like, so often we calculate the cost of making a decision, but we never sit down and calculate the cost of not making that decision not making that change. You know, and it's like, I think that's for me is that exact thing. Is it's like, I can't afford a designer, or I can't afford a sales guy, or I can't afford like a crew manager. But it's like, I've never sat down and realized that, like, hey, it's costing me time with my kids and my wife, and it's costing me my own peace. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's just such a short-sighted mentality to only look at like the dollar sign attached to it. You know, it's like it limits you and it holds you in this place where you can't grow and you can't do these things. So that's where, again, I was joking earlier where it was like, I felt like we spun our wheels for the first 4 or 5 years I did not make more than $20,000, you know, and I'm working 70-hour weeks. It was miserable. And it was so hard for me. But again, it was just like realizing that I just was stuck, and I did, you know, so it was just, but as I've started to develop and like try and build some relationships with people around me and reaching out and even just like listening to good podcasts and things that are like giving good advice, it's like it has just blown my mind open and like changed the way I view things. But I mean that's so huge, like you were saying, even just to kind of start pricing these positions into our quotes
just
now,
to see what it looks like.
To make it happen. So
I think it's Andy Stanley or John C. Maxwell. I don't really know which one. It might be Andy Stanley. But a friend of mine was challenging me, like, when anytime I speak or anytime I think of like some type of to do something, right? Whether it's like a topic that you want to talk about or even doing this, it's like there's 3 questions. It's, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish here? The second thing is, what happens if I don't do it, right? What is the weight that's there? And the third thing is now how do I make it a reality? What is the least actionable step here to make this? Like, what point am I trying to prove? And the second one, I hate that question because I'm like, I don't want to focus on the negative. I'm negative enough as it is. I'm pessimistic, whatever, cynical across the board. And like, I have to fight that daily. So it's like the second question is like, well, what happens if I don't? No, I'm supposed to be visionary right now. I don't want to talk about that, right? And because we have a propensity to not look at that. So what happens to your business if you don't have that details person? That's a tough question to answer, but I think we all know the answer. We do. And it's just like, it will eventually, like, it's going to either plateau and you're going to be running into the ground all the time, or it's eventually going to fall apart. And that's just the reality. And the same thing, like with this, it's just like...
Same thing at like NWI Media. If I would have had a details person there that was running that 100%. Management side, it probably would have been, a very, very fruitful company.
And now it's scalable because now it's not just you. Even if they have 50... that's what Craig Rochelle says too. It's like, even if they have 50% of your capacity, do they still have the capacity to grow though? And it's just like, oh, wow. I guess I never looked at that before.
And like, no, that's so huge.
Because it's like, now you have to be like, that's you giving them the authority to fail well. Versus, like, just, all right, I'm just going to hire someone, they have to be 100%. They're already at their capacity then. I'd rather somebody who's maybe 50%, not where I'm at, but can lean into growth and has the potential to do so. You're unstoppable at that point because now it's not just you. Which, I tell you what, when I started to, even a couple flips that just blew up in my face, I was like, I remember talking to Andrew, and he's like, why don't you just invite somebody out to those properties? And they're like, hey, man, this property's not that bad. I sat on it probably way too long, but just inviting somebody into that was just like, I felt like peace. I was like, oh my gosh. And now, did it still blow up? Absolutely. But at least I got to do it while other people were there and I wasn't alone. And I'm not saying anything's going to blow up. I'm saying for me it was because I waited too long on certain things that I should have invited people years ago.
That isolation truly is not your friend. Like whatever you're trying to pull back in that, or you're trying to go to that spot, I think if people can focus on that and understand, like for him, it sounded like it was podcast and he was able to listen to people that were vulnerable, that allowed maybe him to be a little bit more vulnerable with himself to grow.
Absolutely. Again, I feel like that was so who I was. I mean, I was so isolated for years, and I feel like a lot of it was like that imposter syndrome, if you will. It was like I was embarrassed. Like I literally went from being a weed whacker on a mow crew to running my own business, which, like, looking back, I was like, dude, I knew nothing. I had never
Who let him do this? Like,
I had never driven a truck and trailer. I had never plowed snow. I had never done any of these things. I had an opportunity that kind of popped up that, like, kind of drugged me into it. But it was like, so I felt very inadequate myself because I in some ways I was, but it was like that held me in this place of isolation for so long, where it was like
been there in our own cycles.
like I didn't want to let people in because I was like embarrassed of what I had. You know what I mean? It was like I didn't have. Right? Exactly. I love it. So it's just like, that's where I think that some of the best advice you can give is just like open yourself up early and often, because like your shame, like we've been learning at church, it's like your shame will hold you in this repetitive cycle. It's like this just whirlwind of just depression and anxiety and all these things that we hate. But it's like, if you could just like branch out and just start learning from, open yourself up to resources, you can go a lot farther, a lot faster.
And I appreciate you bringing back to the shame reality and back to the church, because that's what it is. You have two narratives, the choice every single time, right? Choose your story. Is it the default, the one that tells you you're not enough, or is it the one that says I'm a son and I'm in training? It's like, regardless, my failure doesn't dictate my reality, because that's not my identity. My identity is in Christ. And I love that. I mean, this goes back to kingdom, but more than anything, I was telling this last night to a couple people, and the Lord just prompted in my head, like, there's a reason, right? First commandment is, all right, love the Lord your God, blah, 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 anything else, right? And then the second one is love your neighbor as yourself, right? And in that reality, I think the assumption there was that we were supposed to connect in the first place. Like, if you love your neighbor, like, they just like, they're going to be in your life no matter what. Like, people are going to be, regardless of wife, blah, 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 anything. There was an assumption that there was connection that you're going to have anyway. And it's just like, man, like, it's like I need to talk to I need to bring other people into my life. Otherwise, like, I'm going to fail. Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I'm an introvert. So by nature, it's just like, dude, give me a dark corner and a book and I'll disappear for days. But I know that's not how the Lord wants us to live our life. Yeah,
but then you look at shame projecting on you, and it's just going to isolate you even more. And for people that might not necessarily know, shame is the instance where you make a decision, but in that moment you feel like you are the person responsible for that, not 100%. That you're putting the weight on your decision. You can make a bad decision. That is okay. You are human. You are not perfect. But to pick up shame and think that you yourself are then flawed, oh man, I've carried it around for years. I know he's dealt with it. I think everybody does too.
Everyone will deal with it. And here's even a simpler version of his: guilt is behavioral, shame is an identity thing, and it's picking up and using shame's identity, whatever, to dictate your reality, to take authority over your identity, and it doesn't. That belongs to the Lord.
We would urge anybody to please dig into that in your own lives, because there's probably areas that we've even carried it for years, and we're trying to find and free ourselves from it.
I had an interesting conversation last night just about a small correction. I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm getting demoted. I feel like I'm not a son anymore. And I know about shame, and we're trying to deal with it.
We're in a 3-part sermon already at church about it. Like, we're aware.
And I live with a pastor. Like, let's go straight into it. Like, that's just where it's at. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, how do I feel? I'm like, Andrew, like, I'm feeling this right now. Like, what do I do? And he's just like, he's trying to encourage me. And I'm just like, I just don't believe you. Like, how did I get so rooted in that? And this is the thing. It's like, guys, you have to invite other people in your life. That's the whole point. Like, if you don't do that, like, I'm telling you, if people isolate, I know for a fact that you're not healthy. You don't even have to tell me anything that's going on in your life. I know for a fact you're not healthy. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can come after me. I don't care. I just know, because I've done that the majority of my life, and I know it's yielded the worst results on the planet.
And we've had the most real example in Tom Hanks in Castaway. It is just not good for you to do.
100%. Do you want a volleyball as your best friend? Come on.
Pull it together.
We saw how
full circle. Full circle. Literally.
To relate to that, I know I've noticed that in myself as well, to where it was like, anytime any sort of criticism would come in, and not of me even personally, but like, maybe like, hey, we noticed that this is a little off or whatever, it was like, I would take that so personally and get so like worked up over it. And it's like, I think that's such an important part of being able to grow, is learning that, like you said earlier, it's like, you can have guilt over like a bad decision, but like, to take that identity on yourself, it's like, it's such a dangerous trap, to where you get stuck to where you can't receive criticism. And not only that, but the people who do bring it to you don't want to bring it to you anymore because you blow up and you act immature about it and you lose your cool. And it's like, to be able to be humble and receive correction or to receive input is going to take you so far, because when people that are above you, if you will, or people that are in a place that you're not, bring correction into your life, and then they see you take it and run with it, that inspires them to want to continue to pour into your life. But the exact opposite is true when you respond wrong, or like they maybe call something out, then you immediately defend it and tell them why that you do this or why you're that. It's like, no, you're missing it. Like, this person is not where you're at for a reason. So like, shut your mouth and listen, like eat
Agreed.
it and walk on, you know? And
That's good, man.
it's not easy at first.
No,
and it's, to some extent, it may never get easy, but it's like, you've got to be able to be open to that, or you're gonna be the same person when you're 40. It's like, I think it was, again, Craig Rochelle's like my that's all I listen to, man. I love him, but
Henry
it's like,
Cloud for him.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
like, if you don't know where you want to be in a few years, you're already there. Like, you're,
that's good.
You know, so it's like you've got to have a way to where you setting goals for yourself and looking to like challenge yourself. But that's all a direct result of being open to criticism and open to, and not that people just come down and like cut you, but they're trying to bring you up and they're trying to help you grow. So you've got to learn to like bite your tongue and take it.
But I think the key point here is, guys, is finding the appropriate people, because there are the wrong people to share with. I think we've all learned that lesson.
Yeah.
And believe me, like, I've been guilty too, where just like I maybe said something I should have, or like I guess I didn't realize certain things. I'm just like, man, like I'm the wrong person to be in their life. And again, I've said this before, maybe a small little excerpt here, but if you're not I'm not saying you can't learn from people, right? Like Craig Rochelle, blah, blah, these other people. But if you're not spending an hour or more of time together in people's lives, you have not earned the right to speak into their life. Vice versa, they have not earned the right to speak into your life. And I think, dude, especially in the church, I don't even get started on that. We're just like, I feel like the Lord told me to do this. And it's just like, dude, I appreciate it. I'll put it on a shelf, but you haven't earned that right to speak into my life. So you're telling these like potentially life-changing things, realize the weight of that. And we just don't do that in the church.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. It kind of upsets me a little bit, but it's just like the weight of that. We don't give it the appropriate value, and thus we can damage and harm people if we don't take that seriously.
That's good.
And I try to tell people as much as possible. It's just like, I'm very, very particular with who I meet with and who I hang out with, because it's led to drug use, it's led to drinking, it's led to like horrible sexual realities. And I'm just like, that's because I didn't push the people that I should have been pushing away. And then I started to share my heart, and it's just like, well, why can't Sean be vulnerable? Because I shared it with the wrong people and I got burned. Yeah. And it's like, we need to be very, very adamant about who is in our lives. Otherwise, it is going to destroy us. Or we're going to destroy others. And I think that is a kind of a key point there. But
yeah, absolutely. I know I've noticed, again, even in my own life, just either having nobody around you, or the people that are around you aren't inspiring you and aren't motivating you,
or pulling you to a better level.
Yeah, it's like you like you said, man, you've got to have people around you that you're chasing in some sort of a way that inspire you to keep pushing yourself. Because if you're sitting around with your homies ordering pizza and playing video games, you're like, dang, I'm a lot better than him. And you know, it's like, I'm doing pretty good, but it's like there's levels to it, you know. It's like, and again, it's not that it's all about like just chasing money and chasing success, but it's like, even as a person, if you're not around people that are pushing themselves and like looking to grow, I mean, you're not going to have very much fun.
Yeah.
You know?
I joke around all the time, and I know they would disagree with me, but the people that are in my life that I hang out on a consistent basis with, it's not a lot of people. I'm probably the dumbest one in the group, and like, I love that. I used to be like, oh, Sean's just dumb. No, like, because they pull me to their level. Like, I love sitting in the room just like, man, like, these guys are so far above me. I'm like, I can't wait to learn. I'm just like this wallflower just absorbing information. And I'm like, this is absolutely incredible. And they don't think that they are, but I look at them that way, and it's so gravitational. They're just pulling me to their level, and I'm just like, dude, this is like pulling the nastiness out of me. Yeah. And it's like, I appreciate you guys, because this is, and that's the thing, like, I'd rather hang out with people that I think are above me, because again, at some point, I just get tired of where I'm at, that I elevate myself versus drop down to other people's level. And I'm not
how
saying,
many people hang out where they are because of the ego.
Yeah,
right. It's the enemy long term. But like,
or I'm not worse.
You with your
I'm
group,
not as worse as this person, so I feel a little bit better. You touched on that as well, and it's like, I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, well, at least I didn't sleep with this many people, or at least I didn't, do this drug, or at least but I'm like, at least I wasn't, that bad, and I use that as like a justifier to stay.
You're like negotiating with yourself, but truth of the matter is, you're human, and you were not created to be perfect in the first place. You're not 100%. Gonna be. You're never gonna attain it.
And this is not saying Sean's above or beneath anyone. It's just like people can be beyond you, though, and I want to go to the people that are beyond me. Agreed. So I can go there.
That's good.
But anyways, you got anything else, man?
No, dude. I think it's like as you look to people in your life, it's like it's so valuable to have people above you, because it's like if no one around you is at a level that you're not, it's like there's no inspiration there. There's no, it's like even with business and with work, it's like a lot of the avenues that I've pursued have been a result of like seeing people that I value, whether it's a lot of my stuff is on social media and those sort of things. I really need to get better about developing like in-person relationships, but it was like I kind of got to the point where it was like, man, I don't really necessarily have a lot of relationship in my life. A lot of it was my own fault of isolating myself, but it was like I don't necessarily have these physical people, but it's like they're online. Like if you don't have them in real life to hang out with, put them in your ear. You know what I mean? And that will begin to start that process. And it's like as a result of that, it's inspired me to build these friendships and the people around me. And like, but if you're just filling your mind with like garbage all day, it's like you feel good about yourself and you get pretty comfortable. It's like chilling in the pool. It's like, I don't want to get out because it's cold,
Yeah, sooner or later, what you consume is what you become.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
For sure. Well, hey, Joel, seriously, thank you so much for coming on with Sean. We need to get that soundbite from Alex.
We got to get it.
But if you guys have any questions for any type of landscaping, hardscapes, like if you guys have a potential thing coming up, I want you guys to reach out to him, at least to get a bid. I guarantee, just on the personal side of stuff, like he's going to outperform not just anyone. We're not going to compare with anyone. He's genuinely going to outperform your expectations. So,
and if you need mowing, he's probably going to refer you.
Yeah, I got a guy. I got a great number.
Kudos to you too, man. You've been crushing with the social media, like those hardscape. Dude, you can do anything. Like it looks so good. Piece with some music, reels.
Let's make some reels.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity, man. 100%. This is so cool. So inspired by you guys doing this and pushing it and
appreciate
everything you're doing. So this has been fun.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Absolutely.
Awesome, dude.
Bye, guys.